Hey everyone, welcome. It's Valentine's Day today, and I hope you have had a wonderful day so far. Um, my apologies, there was something in the way. For me, it was a good day. Uh, I don't have any Valentine things ahead of me, but that's okay. um, I thought I'd try something new today. Uh, YouTube released vertical live streaming, and I have no idea how this is going to work, so it will be a surprise for all of us. For those who don't know me, my name is Ilza. I am a magic wielding dragon companion and creator of worlds. And today I want to have a look into Valentine's Day's history, and how you can use it in your world. And of course, I'll be doing some writing sprints as well, with writing prompts, of course, in the Valentine's Day theme. So let's have a quick look at the history before we jump into the writing sprints of today. Um, Valentine's Day is all about love, right? But have you ever wondered how that came to be? I mean, I knew that it has something to do with the Saint Valentine, but that was kind of basically it what I knew. So I decided to dive a little bit deeper into it and see what it's all about. Well, a Valentine's Day finds its origin in a Christian feast day honoring the martyr named Valentine. But who was Valentine exactly? Well, there were actually more people called Valentine, multiple martyrs. On February the 14th, today, there are exactly two saints who are honored in Christianity. That is Valentine of Rome and Valentine of Terni. Um, so those are the ones who are honored today. And Valentine, of course, it's fun to have it. It's all about love, and it's all about celebrating love. But what did these guys do? Why did they become so important that we still celebrate them today? Well, there are legends. Of course, with everything, there are legends. And I think it's, how shall I put this? It's interesting. um, in Christianity, saints are, well, let's say, they are remembered. Let me put it that way. They are remembered for various things, and my apologies, but for some reason things are not working quite well as I expected. My apologies for that. Anyways, there are a few legends connected to the Valentines. One is the jailer's daughter. And who was the jailer's daughter? Well, Saint Valentine, whichever one of the two it was apparently persecuted as a Christian and interrogated by the Roman Emperor Claudius II in person. Can you imagine that? You are talking to the Roman Emperor. So Claudius was impressed by Valentine, and he had a discussion with him. Apparently, this Roman emperor wanted to convert this Christian man to Roman paganism. And it was with a good intent. He wanted to save his life. So, the thought behind it was good. But as legend has it, Valentine refused, and in contrast, he tried to convert Claudius to Christianity. Well, you can imagine how that worked out. So, Claudius refused, of course, and as a result, Valentine was executed. But before his execution, he was also still in jail. Or still, he was also put in jail. I mean, that happens to basically everyone who gets executed. Well, nowadays it does, but back then it also usually happened, I think. And legend has it that one of the jailers has a daughter named Julia. And this daughter was blind. And apparently, before his execution, Valentine performed a miracle by healing Julia. So Julia wasn't blind anymore. And in addition, what was later discovered, on the evening before Valentine was to be executed, he wrote the first Valentine card. So there is the origin of the Valentine cards. This card was addressed to the daughter, to Julia, and he signed it as Your Valentine. Well, if you ever wondered why nowadays people use the sign of Your Valentine on the cards instead of whomever name it is, whosever name it is, that is why. And that is something that kept on going. Now, another part of this legend is that Julia herself later on planted a pink blossomed almond tree near Valentine's grave. And today the almond tree is still a symbol of abiding love and friendship. Which might be the reason, if I remember correctly, years ago, decades ago, I don't remember, I don't know. When people were to get married, they would also have little presents to hand out to people who visited their marriage celebrations. God, that's a difficult word. And these little packages had almonds in them. I had no idea, but maybe that's related. Now, another legend, if you will, about Valentine is that apparently Christian weddings were forbidden amongst the soldiers. Apparently, word has it that the Roman Emperor Claudius II forbade this in order to grow his army, believing that married men did not make for good soldiers. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I'm not in the military, never have been in there. So I have no idea if and how that would be an influence. But if it's correct, one historian wrote that the marriage ban was never an issue and that Claudius II instead told his soldiers to take 2 or 3 women for themselves after his victory over the Goths. Well, I mean 2 or 3 women? That's a bit much, but okay. I have no idea why the legend says that apparently it was forbidden, these Christian weddings. But it is one of the legends. Now, another thing you might wonder is why the hearts are so important on this day. Well, of course, with everything that has played so many years ago, I mean it was thousands of years ago, there are legends. So, according to legends, of course, In order to remind the men of their vows and God's love, Saint Valentine, whichever of the two, I have no idea, is said to have cut hearts from parchment and giving them to the soldiers and persecuted Christians as and that could be a possible origin of the widespread use of hearts on Valentine's Day. So we send cards with your Valentine. Oftentimes we find these cards in the shape of hearts, or in one way or another hearts are involved. I mean, that's beside the love thing of hearts. I mean, I'm talking about gifts. And you might wonder, what else did they give as gifts back then? Well, back then gemstones were a real thing, or were really a big thing, I should say. And as with all men of the faith, Saint Valentine supposedly wore a purple amethyst ring. You might have seen that on Christian bishops and people like that. But this particular ring, had the image of a cupid engraved in it. Can you imagine that? I mean, it's incredible, right? On such a small gem, it would be engraved, and I mean, that is incredible. And I love that idea, I really do. It gives you really, how shall I say that? It's an intricate. It's a tiny thing. I mean, it's on a ring, so I mean, it can't be huge. So yeah, it's a tiny thing, but that's okay. They used it, and that is how the amethyst ring became one of the important gemstones. Apparently, it was also a recognizable symbol, and it was associated with love and legal under the Roman Empire. Roman soldiers would recognize the ring and ask Saint Valentine to perform marriage for them. So that is probably why the amethyst is so important nowadays. It has become the birthstone of February, and it is thought to attract love, apparently. Well, I think I better get myself a amethyst. I don't know, perhaps. So I have a question for all of you. How are you doing? How are you celebrating Valentine's Day? And how is your character celebrating Valentine's Day? I'm really interested in hearing that, and I'm looking forward to your answers. And I'll type it in chat right now because I noticed that I totally forgot to do that. My apologies for that. So let me know in the chat how you are celebrating. Have you been surprised by a lover, by someone you love, or maybe a secret lover, someone you don't know yet, or of whom you don't know that they love you? So let me know how you have been surprised today, and if you are joining us later on. In let me know in the comments below, or I don't know how that works right now with live streaming in shorts. I don't know where you can see or add comments. I guess it's somewhere up there in the menu. I don't know, just somewhere. So have fun with that. Um, Now that we have looked at how Valentine's Day has its origin in history and how that works, let's look at writing sprints because I know you guys are looking forward to that as well. Um, last Saturday, I worked on my outline for Tekken Chronicles, and I told you guys that at the end, I told you guys that I needed to fix a few things, and I needed to decide about a few point of view chapters or characters rather. I made that decision, and I will tell you guys all about it later on. But first, we'll have our first writing sprint of today, and I also have a nice writing prompt for you guys. I wish you a lot of fun. Today's writing sprints will be a tad bit different than what we usually do. Today I'm going to do writing sprints of 15 minutes instead of 25. Because we also look at because I also looked at the history, and later on today we'll also go into how you can celebrate the love in your world, or Valentine's Day in fantasy. That is something I'll also have a look at. So the writing sprints today will be a bit shorter than the usual 25 minutes, but I still wish you a lot of fun with them. So the first writing sprint of today, with the first writing prompt of today, is the teddy bear, and it is a fun animal, and as you can see in this one, it has the nice I love you sign on it. Teddy bears are cute animals, and they are often given as small gifts on Valentine's Day or other days. So let me know, have you been surprised with a teddy bear, with a Valentine's teddy bear? Or is your character being surprised by that? So let's start with a writing sprint of 15 minutes, and see if you can use the teddy bear in your in a piece that you are going to write. Let's see if this is going to work as I think it should. Okay, so for some reason it's not quite working. Okay, so I have a new new timer, and it's not working like I expected it would, and I really hate that. Let's try again. I don't quite understand why it's not working, because it should work, and it is not showing up. My apologies, guys, I really didn't mean for that. It's really not showing up, but this is really annoying. I thought I had it fixed, but I don't. So now I don't have a timer in the screen. Which is too bad. Let me see. Oh, maybe I need to have this one open. Okay, let's see. Let's try it again. And it's still not showing up. Okay, reset. My apologies, guys. It worked when I was testing it, and now it doesn't. Why isn't it working? I don't understand. It should work. Okay. I'm going to do this differently. Okay, I'm going to take the clock, like I often have at hands, but right now we're going to take it a little bit differently. Just going to see if I can do it in a different way. So of course not. This is really very annoying. I'm sorry, guys. I expected the timer to function as it did, and for some reason it doesn't, and I don't understand. And now I have to see if I can fix things on the fly. It seems not. Okay, this is not gonna work. I'm sorry, guys. So what I'll do. I really have no idea how to fix this. I don't understand why it's not working. It should work. And it was working before. Okay, I'm going to see if I can fix it in another way. Because this one, I know it works. Or rather, it did work. Well, it does work, but I need to figure out which one it is. Okay, this is really, really frustrating. I can't fix it on the fly, you guys. And I can't seem to be able to add the clock that I usually use. That is something I can't seem to add as either. Oh, I hate this. I really hate this. Let me see if I can display capture. If anybody has any idea, please help me out. Oh, this is really, really bad. Okay, let's see. I want you to just... No, it's really... It doesn't want to capture the clock. It's capturing all kinds of things. Oh, okay, that's weird. Okay, let me see. I'm testing it now in another setup to see if that will work. If I can make it work like that. Hopefully I can. That will be at least a temporary fix. Okay, and if I move it, no, I really gotta keep it here. Okay. I have a temporary fix. It's not ideal, but at least I have a temporary fix. So let's put this. Let's see if I can make this a little bit smaller. No. Okay. So of course, when you try something new, do you guys also have that when you try something new, then all of a sudden things just really do not want to work anymore? Which of course is very annoying. So unfortunately I'm gonna have to do it like this. Okay, let's restart. Good. At least we can do a sprint again with a timer. Not quite the way I had it in mind, but well, you know, when something doesn't work the way you planned, then you have to work with it the way you can. So that is what we'll do today. Because I have really no other way to fix this. I'll look into that at some points in the future, but not today. Okay, so again, the teddy bear as a writing prompt for you guys for a 15-minute writing sprint. I wish you all good luck and have fun. Happy writing. And that is the end of our first writing sprint. How did it go for you guys? Well, for me, I needed to still, or I should say, I'm still working on fixing those point of views chapters in the outline. It's not the easiest thing because as I go through the outline, I notice that there might be more chapters that have point of view of characters who are not, or who I should say, who I did not plan as main characters. So I'll have to think about how the role of these characters are, or will become in the future, and see if they really need a point of view as a character, and thus also a chapter. Chapters, point of views, or point of view chapters, I should say, or if I should do this in a different way. There are pieces where I think, you know what, maybe I'll just keep it in for now and do it later on, because there are things going on that I cannot do with the main characters, but they still need to be done, and I want to, well, you know, there's this fine line between an info dump and a story flow, and in this case, I really need to see if I'm looking at a possibility that these point of view chapters and characters with that become more a different way of an info dump. And that is of course not good. That's not what it's supposed to be. So I'll need to make some more decisions in the future, and I'll need to figure out a few things about how they work and how I can do that. I don't know yet. I don't know. I'll have to see about it. But it's fun nonetheless. It's the fun part is, or one of the fun parts is that even though I had originally thought to just write the outline, and from there go on and write the first book, and possibly the first draft of the entire series, and then look at the flow of the entire series, the story flow and the characters, and then the world building and other things. And now I am working on the outline, and I am already looking at the story flow and looking at the characters that have their point of views chapters, and seeing how things might need to be done differently. So I hadn't expected that that it would become a part of the process, a part of my writing process already. But at the same time, I think I kind of like it, so it's a good thing. I'll just keep on going for now. The teddy bear from the prompt is not something I used, if only because Tergane is a completely fictional world, and it doesn't have teddy bears, or at least not in the way that we know them. So there are no teddy bears in the outline at the moment. But there will be at some point, or let me put it differently. Tergane does have celebrations of love. It has loads of celebrations, loads of holidays, loads of unofficial holidays, loads of things that are remembered or that have festivals around them, etc., etc. But it doesn't mean that everything will be included in the books. Right now, I don't expect a similar thing to Valentine's Day will be in the books. Um, it is in the world, it exists in the world, but I don't expect that it will be a part of the books. So I'll have to see about that. That's not something I haven't decided upon yet. I guess I will see it when I start writing. Uh, my apologies. When I start writing the books again. Um, so yeah, that's how things are at the moment. Lots of things that I discovered and that I really need to think about. Like I told you guys in my live stream from Saturday, I have still some world building to do as well. I still need to figure out if that one village south of Dragon City is simply, if it is simply, it is a village instead of the city, and the city, Dragon City, is actually the most southern city on NATO 1, or if it is more complicated, that this particular village is actually the most southern part of NATO 1. So I'll need to figure out if what people say about the most southern point. Is it the most southern city, or is it the most southern landmark? Things like that. I don't know yet. How would you do? How would you do that in your story? Let me know in the chat or later on in the comments. For now, I have a new writing prompt for you guys, because I want to go into another writing sprint again for 15 minutes, and I will have to fix the timer in just a minute as well, but that's okay. You know, Valentine's Day is a day filled with love and surprises, and perhaps also, I don't know, moments where you get away, perhaps with your loved ones, like here in a tent. I think it's on the beach somewhere, or I don't know, in a meadows or something. For me, this looks very romantic. I don't know, maybe they will sleep in the tent. They have all the lights around them. So it looks like a beautiful night. So yeah, that is one of the things, of the fun things, I think, for Valentine's Day. And I'm thinking, because I forgot to copy something. Okay, I'm going back here. Of course, this should work now. Yes, exactly. Okay, so this is what I said. It's one of the things, you know, during, or one of the fun things of Valentine's Day. You can surprise your partner with things like this, and just go out for a night or for a long weekend, or I don't know, just go spend some quality time together. And I think in a setting like this, I mean, that is so good to spend this kind of quality time together. Just a romantic time, a romantic night, or perhaps a few romantic nights, which can get you, which can strengthen your relationship. So in this case, another writing sprint of 15 minutes, and let's see if you guys can use this writing prompt. The tent, the people in the tent, the romantic setting. Let's see if you can do that. And feel free to use it in any way possible. I mean, it doesn't have to be literal. interpretation. It can also be something your character reads in a book or sees in a movie or anything like that. So don't feel yourself, or don't limit yourself to this picture. You can interpret it in so many ways. Oh, I just noticed it. I think it's a simple thing as it is in their backyard, because I think there is a building behind their tent. I only just now noticed it. So feel free to interpret it in any which way you can and have fun with our second writing sprint of today. And let's see where it takes us. Happy writing! And that is the end of our second writing sprint. My apologies. How did it go for you all? Well, for me, it wasn't the easiest thing. I'm still trying to figure out a few things for the characters that of which I decided that wouldn't be point of view characters. Um, I'm now really I need to find a way to get certain information at a certain time to one of the main characters. And at the moment, I don't know how yet. I haven't figured that out yet. Because I originally thought this information would be brought by Rowena, the healer that heals Najat. But as it turns out right now, Rowena is not going to be any of the point of view characters anymore. So I need to find a way to get the information that she would have gotten to one of the main characters while she's not a point of view character anymore. So I don't know yet. that's kind of a big issue right now. This is something I really need to find an answer for, because this is let me say quite important information. So yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know yet, but I'll see. I'll figure it out along the way. I think it's a good thing that I figured out right now while I'm writing the outline that this is not a point of view character, because especially with all of this, if I would have written this all, I mean, there are several chapters already, so if I would have written this all, as in writing the chapters, then I would have had so much more work in fixing it afterwards. Well, right now I'm going to fix it while I haven't written the chapters yet, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier. I don't know yet. I'll have to see. But it's okay. I mean, it's that is one of the challenges in writing, and that is what I love about our art. It keeps on challenging us in one way or the other, and that's a fun thing. But it can be hard at times. I mean, I'm now doing it by myself. I noticed that. I noticed it early on. I can't imagine how this would be if you were to. If I let me put it that way, if I would have written the whole series, the first draft of the whole series, and then worked on the story flow, and then worked on the world building and on the characters, and then come to the conclusion that this is not a point of view character anymore. Or later on, when I start querying that, at that moment, when an agent is like, oh yeah, I really love your story, but I think there are some characters that are not needed, or at least not as a point of view character. Can you imagine that I would have to fix it then? I mean, the horror. I really, really do not want to think about that. It would really be really bad. So I hope that that this has saved me a lot of time, even though I still need to figure out a lot of things. Luckily, one of the things I don't need to figure out in such a huge detail anymore is Valentine's Day in my worlds, in my fantasy world. I know it is there. For now, I think it won't be in the story, so it's not something I will build out a lot, besides what I have already done. But it is something to think about. And especially if you are building your own worlds, but also if you are writing a contemporary fiction novel or an historical fiction novel. Um, these are also things to think about. Does your character celebrate something like this? Is there, if you are creating your own world, is there something like a celebration of love in your world, like Valentine's Day, or maybe it's in a different way. Maybe it's called differently, but essentially it works in the same way. Maybe the customs, the traditions are very different from what we know here on Earth. Things like that. So let's have a look at how it can work um, in fantasy. Now, there are a few things that you might use, um, and a few things that you can learn from the past. When looking at Valentine's Day, there are so many ways that it can be done, and so many ways that it is done all throughout the world. From history, it is something that was often connected, of course, with or not often. It was connected with Saint Valentine, and it's done. It is celebrated since several centuries, but it doesn't mean that it has always been celebrated in the same way. Um, it is right now we often send cards, we give flowers, we give, I don't know, chocolate boxes, or I remember I gave my partner a couple of mugs that were, I can't show you them right now, but they were interconnected in a way, and they showed a lovely piece. I think it was two bears. They have the teddy bears, but they were on a mug, and on a mug, whatever. Um, they held hearts together, so that's also a different way of giving a gift. Um, and those are things that we here on Earth in present day are used to. Um, but in other places, like in Norfolk, they have a character, or used to have a character. I don't know if it's still done, but there was a character called Jack Valentine, and he would knock on the rear door of houses, leaving sweets and presents for children. Now that sounds so nice, and in a way it reminds me of Sinterklaas here in the Netherlands, because here in the Netherlands we have the Piet. We don't call him Black Pete anymore. It's all kinds of Pete, and he will knock on the door, and he will leave a bag of presents, and that is in essence similar to this Jack Valentine, um, and the result is similar as well, because this Jack Valentine, apparently, even though he leaves treats, he leaves gifts, many children apparently are afraid of this mystical person. And if we look here in the Netherlands, that is one of the base things of Sinterklaas as well, that children can be afraid, not because he is black, but because there's this whole mystery of who is this and where does he come from, and I don't know that man. It's like, especially the younger children do not understand that, oftentimes at least. So they see the similarities, and that is how it might work in your world as well. Um, it might not. it might be that it is not necessarily um, a romantic love like the way we always see it, but it can be just something for the kids, something to celebrate. Um, so that is one way of looking at it, and you can use it in so many different ways because it is it is a romantic notion, but it doesn't mean that you always have to use it in that way. Um, no, right, it is good. Because it all depends on how it works in your world and how your characters feel about it. I mean, you can have characters who absolutely hate Valentine's Day or a similar celebration, who just don't like it. There can be characters who are at the production chain, at the top of the production chain for gifts and things like that for Valentine's Day, and who might be just exhausted from all the work that's been done, and who have something like, okay, you know what? I've had it. I just want a plain, just a normal night, nothing special. I don't want to have anything because this person is just so exhausted from preparing all those gifts and for other people. Um, at the same time, depending on what your fantasy world is, you might you might have a situation where a similar celebration of love is looked down upon because I don't know, it can cost a lot of money. So of course that all depends on what you do, but suppose in your world it can cost a lot of money, and that is looked down upon because everyone is quite poor, or because there have been disasters, or I don't know, give it a reason. So Valentine's Day, or the day of celebration of love in your world, is something that is not celebrated, or is something that is looked down upon because it can't be done right now, or because it is forbidden. Remember when I told you guys about the Chinese New Year last Saturday, where I also looked into a little bit of history of Chinese New Year, and actually from 1967 out of the top of my head till 1980, the celebrations of Chinese New Year were, well, they wouldn't say forbidden, but essentially forbidden. So that's also something that can happen. And what happens when you forbid something? Well, people will find ways to still celebrate it. I mean, that is how we work, right? Um, you could also have a situation where, I don't know, there's a war going on. And I mean, oftentimes in fantasy worlds, that just happens. Wars that are fought for one reason or the other. Um, and sometimes it's just a piece of land, and sometimes it's the spouse of one of the main characters has been killed by the other side, or I don't know, so many reasons to the order, like in Game of Thrones, where Daenerys Targaryen wants to get Daenerys Stormborn. My apologies. Wants to get back on the throne. Well, she wasn't ever on the throne, but her family was on the throne. So that is one reason to start a war. But the biggest reason to start the war was, of course, the White Walkers. I'm still confused as to why the other thing wasn't solved. Never mind. Never mind. It the end of Game of Thrones felt like an anticlimactic end for me. But okay. I've heard that before from others as well. Um, So there are many ways to look at celebration of love in your world, um, and also, of course, the time period. If you have, for example, a contemporary story that starts after February the 14th, and it just plays for a few months, then there's no need to mention Valentine's Day. Unless, of course, the two main characters met at Valentine's Day and started their relationship essentially back then. Of course, that can be something, but most of the time, in such a case, you don't need to mention even Valentine's Day because it's no use. Um, but keep in mind, if you have someone who works in a factory, for example, a factory that produces Valentine's gifts, well, then, depending on at which point in the year you are, you might be confronted with Valentine's Day, even though it is not Valentine's Day yet, because production of these things, of these products, starts way earlier. And thinking about marketing starts way earlier than a few days before Valentine's Day. Think about things like Christmas and um, here in the Netherlands also Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas is on the 5th of December. And when do we start seeing the candy and other and gifts that would be ideal to give with Sinterklaas? The candy is in the store from the end of August. That was the earliest that I saw it. I mean, it was before even the school year started. I mean, why? There were at least 3 months to go until it was December 5th. And oftentimes, what we now see is that by the time we reach Sinterklaas or we reach Christmas, there's nothing in the stores anymore. I mean, or Easter, same problem. The chocolate Easter eggs are already in the stores. They were, I think, half of January, maybe even earlier already. So they were already in the stores. You do not need to go to the stores a few days before Easter to buy chocolate eggs because they will be gone. There will be nothing left. So those are things that you can keep in mind as well when you work on your story. Be it a contemporary story with someone, with a character who is in one way or another related to the production of these things, or be it your own complete high fantasy world, the secondary world as they are called, or the second world. Is it done? How is it done? Do people send each other cards? I mean, keep in mind that if you have created your own world, oftentimes high fantasy worlds are worlds that pretty much resemble medieval times. In those times, paper was still expensive. At least the good paper was still quite expensive. So making a card or sending cards was not something that you would do just for the fun of it. You really thought about it. Writing papers was also something that was quite expensive. So those are things you keep in mind as well. So it might be that in preparation of such an event, people will start saving money. Or people will start making their own things. I mean, paper making can be done at home. I have to admit I've never done it, but I know it can be done at home. You have to be in a possession of the correct tools, of course, a press and things like that, to make sure that you can actually do that. But it can be done. So keep that in mind as well. People might start prepare for things for, I mean, the day after Valentine's Day has ended. I know here in the Netherlands we have Carnival in the south. And people start saving up money from the moment that Carnival ends this year. It ends this year. It, I think it has ended with today. I don't celebrate Carnival. I don't like it. But it ends. I think it officially ends today. That is also the moment that people start saving up money for next year. And I'm not kidding. They really do that. So keep that in mind as well. People might save money. People might save materials to make things. People might already start creating gifts weeks, months ahead to make sure they actually have something for their loved ones. So those are all things that you can keep in mind for the celebration of love in your world, be it a contemporary world or a high fantasy world like Tagenay is. It's important to keep that in mind because it works so much wider than just that day or than just those few days around that day. So that is Valentine's Day in fantasy. Now, well, it is the short gist of it. My apologies. The short gist of it. In the future, I will do a more deep dive about days like this in your fantasy world. I might do it. I might make a video which is not only focused on Valentine's Day but also other days. But I won't post it here on this channel, but I will post it on my studio's channel because that is going to be focused solely on world building. So it is coming at some point this year because it needs quite some research and preparation because I have lots of things to do for that. But it is coming, so keep your eyes peeled for that as well in the future. Now that we have covered a Valentine's Day in your fantasy world, let's see, it is 10 minutes till 5. So let's do one more writing sprint. And then I'm going to call it a day. It's one more writing sprint of 15 minutes. And I have one more writing prompt for you. Which is... Let me see if this works as I wanted to. Yes, it is a box of chocolates. Chocolates are nowadays pretty much standard for Valentine's Day. So let's see if your character really likes that. If your character has been giving a box of chocolates or is making a box of chocolates perhaps. So I'm going to see again. I totally forgot to copy the timer over. Yes, now it's here. Okay, so let's do one more writing sprint of 15 minutes with the box of chocolates. I wish you all a happy writing and I'll see you in 15 minutes. Have fun! And that is the end of our last writing sprint. How did it go for you all? I have changed a few things in my outline, and well, I hope it will be better. That's always, of course, the question. Um, for now, I think this will work better. Um, I will have to figure it out when I actually start writing again, or at least writing the chapters. Right now, I'm also writing, but I'm writing the outline. And I think that the changes that I made in the outline so far are pretty good. It will work, I think, for the story flow and the characters. But I will only know it once I start writing and see it all truly in action. And for now, I don't know yet. Um, so I'll have to just wait and see. And that's a good thing. I mean, those are the challenges when you write. And you know what? It's not bad to have those kind of challenges, um, especially when you are writing a series like I am. I'm writing the series, and I'm writing a huge series. I might add, in a fantasy story, in a fantasy setting. I mean, which, as a result, can make things more complicated. And, well, honestly, things have become more complicated. After all, I started out with Naja and Najat's background story, which was supposed to be just a background story for me, and now it has become the first part in my story, in my series. And I mean, that's okay, that's all fine, but it's not something I expected at any time when I started with the idea of writing the background story of Naja and Najat's relationship. So yeah, it's fun. It's a challenge, but it does make the story better. And so now I really have to write this outline to make sure that a lot of things will be included and will be much better than I originally had in mind. Um, and so this adjustment of the outline, with removing those point of view chapters and character, well, not removing the characters, but removing the point of view role from them. Um, it is an important part of the writing process, and I do it now. Other authors might do it way later. It all depends on your process, and it all depends on what you run into, the challenges you find, and how things flow for you, for your story, and for your characters. Um, so yeah. So yeah, that's those are the biggest challenges that you might face, or the biggest, a few of the big challenges you might face, and perhaps at some point you might face even bigger challenges. You might face a complete rewrite of your story, um, because once you've written it, you might find out that it should have been written completely different. Uh, but that's all part of the job, all part of our art, all part of our craft. And even though it can be challenging, and even though you are the one to write your story, unless you're writing it with multiple people, but in essence, oftentimes you are the one to write the story. It doesn't mean that you are alone in this. There are plenty of authors, I dare say all authors, go through a similar process, and we can help each other with that. We do not. I mean, often people say being an author is a lonely job. Well, actually, it isn't. Actually, being an author is a job in which you have so many people working with you. You have your sparring and critique partners, you have your alpha and beta readers, you have your editors, and you have later on the agents if you go through traditional route. The, the agents, and then you have the editors from your agency, and then you have the editors from the publishers, etc., etc. So these are all people who will work with you to make your story better and to make your story the best story it can be. Um, and that is also how I see this process, how I see the adjustment of my outline. I'm just making the best story possible, um, by changing this and by removing those point of view chapters and removing the point of view role from those characters. Even though I have a lot of work ahead of me because I need to fix things that I originally envisioned differently. But that's all part of it. That's part of the process, and I love it. And with that, we've come to the end of today's writing sessions, and I wish you all a wonderful Valentine's Day. My apologies, I just had a black moment. I wish you all a wonderful remainder of the Valentine's Day, and I hope I gave you a few tips and suggestions that you can use and writing prompts that you can use. And I will see you all Saturday again, normal time, 2 p.m. And then we'll see what we'll get into. It won't be a themed live stream, it will be just a normal live stream. So I wish you all good luck, happy writing, and have a